Hello students, I welcome you all for today's session. So in today's class we are going to discuss one more new topic in MR programming, that is combiner class. We are going to discuss about the Hadoop Combiner. In the previous sessions we have discussed about the mapper, the reducer, the driver code, isn't it? So in today's class we are going to discuss about the combiner. What is a combiner? What exactly the combiner is for? What is the advantages of the combiner, what are the disadvantages of the combiner, how the combiner will actually work. All these things we are going to discuss in today's class. Shall we start the session, students? Yes. So at first I will be giving a little definition parts. What is a combiner and all. So combiner, actually it is a phase in between mapper and the reducer. We know that what is a mapper, we know what is a reducer. So in between we do have one more component, one more phase, that is a combiner component. Combiner places in between mapper and the reducer. The output generated by the mapper will be given to the combiner, so that the combiner will further process those intermediate key value pairs, and the output generated by the combiner will be given as input to the reducer classes. We know what kind of outputs the mapper has been generated, and we have seen all those things in the previous classes, isn't it? So whatever the output generated by the mapper will be given as input to the combiner. It is a phase in between the mapper and the reducer. Okay, and it is also known as a mini reducer. Combiner, we usually call it as a mini reducer. Why we are calling it as a mini reducer, you'll get to know. You'll get to know in the next slides. Okay, and combiner is an optional one. It is not a mandatory class to write. As a programmer, it is not mandatory to write a combiner class. It depends on the application actually. The application which you are writing, the MR program. For a particular application, you will be writing an MR program. It depends on the application whether we need to use the combiner class or we should not use the combiner class. That depends on the application again. Okay, so it is an option. It is not a compulsion class. Okay, okay, students. Fine. Now we'll see why we should use the combiner. What is the need of the combiner? We'll be seeing in the next slide. Okay, what is the need of the combiner? If you observe, students, the mapper generates the intermediate key value pairs. The mapper generates the intermediate key value pairs. Assume the mapper has generated some millions of intermediate key value pairs. Those intermediate key value pairs needs to be traversed through the network to the reducer. The reducer class will be running in one machine. The mappers will be running in other machines. It may happen sometimes, no? So whatever the output generated by the different mappers will be collected and will be given to the reducer class. So all this input, all these intermediate key value pairs needs to be traversed through the network towards the reducer class. Wherever the reducer class is running, to that reducer, wherever the reducer class is running, to that node, all the intermediate key value pairs needs to be given to that reducer. So all these key value pairs are traversed through the network. Assume in some applications the mapper generates some millions of intermediate key value pairs. So in order to traverse those millions of key value pairs through the network towards the reducer class, there arises a problem called network congestion problem. That much large amounts of data we need to pass it through the network, no? So it will take a lot of time to traverse through the network and all. So network congestion problem may arise. To overcome that network congestion problem, in mediatory phase we are using, that is combiner. Before passing the data towards the reducer class, in between the combiner will process the intermediate key value pairs in such a way that it will reduce the number of intermediate key value pairs. For example, the mapper has generated some 1 million key value pairs. Assume those 1 million key value pairs needs to be given to the reducer. But in between, if I put the combiner will still further process these 1 million key value pairs. It reduces to some extent. After reducing the intermediate key value pairs, that key value pairs will be given as input to the reducer class. So for that we are using the combiner class. The second one is it obviously improves the performance of the reducer. See, reducer in this case it needs to process 1 million key value pairs, isn't it? But if I use the combiner in between, the combiner will process few intermediate key value pairs and it will generate only less amount of intermediate key value that will be given as input to the reducer class. So overall performance of the reducer can also be increased if I use the combiner class. So these are the two usages of the combiner. I mean, why we are using the combiner means in order to overcome the network congestion problem and also to improve the performance of the reducer. Now students, will see how we are exactly going to reduce the number of intermediate key value pairs by using the combiner. We'll see with an example. For that, what I have taken is, I have taken some sample input data. I have specified here in the slide. I have taken 6 records. I will be processing these 6 records in such a way by with using combiner class as well as without using the combiner class also. I will show you. You can see the difference. Okay, so I have taken 6 records here. This is my input file. I want to process this input file in such a way that I need to find out the count of each word. As we have seen in the previous classes, we have written the word count program for map. We have written the word count program, no? The mapper code, the reducer code, the driver code and all. So now we'll be including the combiner class also in the word count program. So I'll be showing the map reduce program without combiner as well as with combiner also, so that you'll get the clarification. If I use the combiner, what will be happening? If I write the MR program with combiner, how advantageous it is for me. Okay. So what I told you, this is the input data I have taken. There are 6 records. I assume that there are 2 mappers running in the cluster. The first 3 records has given to the first mapper, and the second set of 3 records is given. This is given to the mapper 1, and this set is given to the mapper 2. Okay, so the mapper, as we already saw that the mapper word count mapper code. So I have directly given the result of this mapper. This is called intermediate key value pairs. Okay. So if you observe mapper 1 has been generated some key value pairs. This mapper 2 has also generated some key value pairs. I have just taken the words and I have placed 1. Key, 1, key, 1, key, 1. Likewise, I have placed. This code we already saw in the last sessions, isn't it? So how many key value pairs does these 2 mappers have been generated? If you count, there are 29 intermediate key value pairs are present. If you count everything, this mapper plus this mapper key value pairs, there are 29 key value pairs generated by these 2 mappers. Friends, this actually I have taken very small amounts of data. It is very small amounts of data, but usually we use Hadoop to process large amounts of data, isn't it? So assume when I take large amounts of data, how many key value pairs do I get? Here only I am getting 29 key value pairs. That's okay. But when I take seriously large amounts of data, I may get a chance of like some lakhs of intermediate key value pairs or some crores of intermediate key value pairs, isn't it? So now what I have to do after this mapper phase, the next phase is the reducer. So this 29 key value pairs needs to be given to the reducer. This reducer may be running in some machine, some machine. Assume there's machine number 3. This mapper is running in machine number 1. In cluster, there will be some machines, no? In machine number 1, this mapper is running. In machine number 2, this mapper is running. And these 2 mappers needs to send these key value pairs to reducer. So how many key value pairs it has to send? 29 key value pairs it has to send. So here it is 29, but in real time it will be like some lakhs of key value pairs. To send those lakhs of key value pairs onto the network to another machine, there may be a problem arise. That is called network congestion problem. Okay, so only, I mean, this is a program which I have written without using the combiner class. Okay, if I didn't use the combiner class, there is a chance of getting a network congestion problem, or the performance of the reducer also may lose, because the reducer itself has to process the 29 intermediate key value pairs. Here it is 29, but in real time it is some millions of key value pairs. So the performance of the reducer may also go down. There is a chance of that possibility. There is a chance of that case. Okay, so now I will show you how I am going to write the MR program by using the combiner. Okay, so this is a sample program, sample flowchart I am showing you. If I use a combiner, how it will be. So again, the input data is same. I have taken the same set of records, that is 6 records. the same two mappers have generated 29 key value pairs. How many key value pairs the mappers has been generated? 29 key value pairs. I guess you know how I have generated these key value pairs, isn't it? I've discussed in mapper code. When I discussed the mapper code, in that session I have discussed how this key value pairs has been generated. Okay. Once the mapper has been generated, this key value pairs, it should be given to the reducer class, as we know that. But what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to use one more component called, one more class called combiner class. So what does this combiner class will do? As I said that the combiner will be running in a machine where the mappers are running. This is a very important one, friends. The combiners will get run in the mappers machine only. Wherever the mappers are running, in the same machines the combiner will be running. Meaning here there are two machines. This is machine number 1 and this is machine number 2. In these two machines the mappers are running. So in the same machine, in the machine number 1, the combiner will be running. In machine number 2 also the combiner will be running. Okay, the same nodes itself the combiners will be running usually. Okay, now what the combiner will do is, instead of directly passing this intermediate key value pairs to the reducer, the combiner will perform the reduce task. Listen carefully. The combiner will perform the reduce task at the mapper side only. The combiner will perform the reduce function at the combiner only, at the mapper side only. This combiner will perform the reduce method at this mapper, and this combiner will perform the reduce method at this mapper on this intermediate key value pairs. So friends, if you observe the word count program reduce method, in the word count program reduce method, what we have done, we have shuffled, we have sorted, and we have aggregated the data. Doesn't it? These three things we'll be doing: shuffling, sorting, and aggregating the data. Shuffling means what? Same key, whatever the keys are there. See, for example, if you see here, there are the keys with the same key. There are 3 key value pairs. What? So this will be shuffled. Like the values will be combined together if the key is same. For example, I'll be getting in the shuffling phase, I'll be getting like this: what, comma, 1, comma, 1, comma, 1. Why 1, comma, 1, comma, 1 I have got? Because what is this key is having the values, all these values I am combining. This is called shuffling phase. After shuffling phase, likewise the entire key value space will be shuffled. Apache I'm having only 1, so that will be only 1 here. Hadoop I'm having 3, so Hadoop comma 1 comma 1. Likewise one key value pair will be generated. Likewise other key value pairs will also be get shuffled as well as sorted. After sorting these values, we are aggregating. So after aggregating, what we are getting here? What comma 3. So how many times what is repeated here? Thrice. So what comma 3 is comma 3. Apache is only one time. Hadoop is 3 times. If you observe Hadoop. So Hadoop is 3 times, and HDFS is 1 time, and MapReduce is 1 time. So all these things I'm performing shuffling, sorting, as well as aggregating the value part. So this I'm performing on this mapper by the combiner. Okay, similarly this combiner also will perform the same thing on this intermediate key value pair generated by this mapper. Okay, so how is repeated thrice? If you observe here, and here, how comma 3. Okay, similarly if you observe any other things, using is repeated twice, using and using. Okay, and any other, is repeated twice, is. Data is repeated twice, data. So likewise I'm getting the key and value. Okay, from this combiner will perform the reduce method on this mapper, and this combiner will perform the reduce method on this mapper. So only I told that combiner is a mini reducer. Combiner is a mini reducer. Whatever the reducer task will do, the reducer class will perform the reduce method on all the mapper intermediate key value pairs. It's very hectic for the reducer. It has to perform the reduce method on total 29 key value pairs. But what here I'm trying to do, I'm trying to minimize the work of the reducer by introducing the combiner class. Okay, so the combiner class will perform the same function on specific mapper first. After doing so, now the combiner, whatever the data generated by these combiners, now again we are giving those key value pairs to the, how many key value pairs we have generated here? 18, only 18. So these 18 key value pairs will be given to the reducer for further processing to aggregate again all the input key and keys and values. Okay, in the previous example, the reducer has to process 29 key value pairs, but here in this case, the reducer has to process only 18 key value pairs, meaning I'm sending only 18 key value pairs onto the network to the reducer class. In the previous session, I'm going to send 29 key value pairs. There is a difference, no? Here I have taken very simple example. In the real time, the data will be very large amounts. If you compare that data, there will be a huge number of change will be there in these two. There will be some lakhs, here there will be some thousands only. Okay, so likewise I can improve the performance of the reducer. Instead of processing 29 key value pairs, I'm just giving 18 key value pairs to the reducer to process, and also I'm sending only 18 key value pairs onto the network to the reducer class. Likewise, I'm controlling the network congestion problem and I'm improving the performance of the reducer. Okay. And again, the combiner is an optional. As I said, it depends on the map reduce program we are writing. Okay, not all applications requires the combiner class. So that's all for today. We have discussed the combiner component in today's class. Combiner is a phase in between mapper and the reducer in order to overcome few problems like network congestion problem and performance of the reducer. To increase the performance of the reducer, we are using the combiner class. Okay, so that's all for today, friends. Thank you.